G'day folks, today the Seriously Funny Wellbeing podcast is focused on the ultimate Seriously Funny Wellbeing speaking package, which is an innovative and novel 3 to 4 hour multi-keynote panel session covering virtually all aspects of wellbeing. Conference delegates, the audience inevitably are taught the key principles of driving well, eating well, moving well, thinking well, and laughing well. The keynote speakers featured are Russell White, who's one of the world's leading authorities on the unique field of driver wellbeing, performance and safety. And he is seriously funny too, as well as myself as the sports psychologist to the stars. The final keynote is being delivered by one of the world's leading preventative health experts, a guy by the name of Dr. Ross Walker. The package combines tailored storytelling with humour, motivation, substance, and is arguably one of the most powerful and condensed wellbeing performance speaking packages available anywhere. And that's very,
even if you say so yourself, Homer.
And that's very, very maybe subjective. So let's start by explaining how this would work at a major conference or even at a major community event. Initially, we start the whole thing with a musical introduction, which we haven't written yet. And then we have Russell White, who's chairman of the Australian Road Foundation, speak on driver wellbeing, safety and performance. Russell gives us a bit of an overview and a few tidbits of your opening keynote. Over to you, Russell.
Thank you, Homer. What an introduction that was.
Okay.
Great to see you, and great to see you too, Ross. And you're right, mate. I think what we've tried to do with this presentation or this wellbeing presentation is look at things from a different standpoint. And I think one of the things that's, it's obvious that people like Ross have had a lifetime of helping people with their health. I'm not sure what you've had a lifetime of, but it's.
I'll get into that later.
But I think
we're still going to try to establish what he's going to do when he grows up.
That's right.
Yes.
But I think one of the things that we do every single day, in multiple different forms, is get behind the wheel and be on the road. And I've had, as you said in your intro, I've kind of had a lifetime of helping people to be better, safer drivers. But amongst all that, there's been this whole thing around a well-being piece, because how you sit, how you steer, that can affect your visual field, it can affect your frame of mind. And so it's about trying to share with people some of these tips and tactics that you can use on a everyday. The moment you get behind the wheel, the moment you start the car, there's things that you can be doing to make you not only better as a driver, safer as a driver, but to take a lot of the stress and the drama out of it. I think when I be training people, it's always funny when people come to me for a training session. The thing they always, everyone says, I'm not really sure why I'm here. The boss has sent me here, whatever. And it's that old thing, we're all terrific lovers and we're colossal drivers and we need little help in either department. Now, I mightn't be able to help with the love life much. That might be something you can do. But
Ross.
But the driving part's not something that I think people generally think about. So it's about trying to give people real world skills and make driving not only safer, but a lot more enjoyable for people too.
Just on that, did you hear that this fellow was stealing the wheels off police cars? Or police are now working tirelessly to catch him.
Can you use that? You should be able to use that.
There's probably loose nuts running around as well.
That reminds me of the fellow walked into the psychiatrist who's naked from the waist down, and the psychiatrist said, I can clearly see your nuts.
That's a bit low for your standard of practice.
We went there very quickly, Ross. We did.
Well, this is supposed to be the Seriously Funny Wellbeing podcast.
It is. But it's interesting, out of all the I've done over 1,000 conferences over 25 years, and I've never, ever heard anyone speak on driver wellbeing. And it's amazing given that how it affects us all.
This
gives it a real shift, doesn't it? Oh, sorry.
Try to steer us in a different direction, Ross.
Exactly.
And it's an area, and it's an area quite seriously that affects the health of Australia.
And you know why? This is why I love this approach, Homer, because, it is a subject people sort of think, oh, you're just going to be talking to me about road rules. And I say to people, no, that's the last thing. In fact, if I can get you engaged, get you thinking a little bit differently about what you do behind the wheel, have a bit of fun with it, which is, again, something which is so not what the road safety topic generally is. But I'm lucky enough, and I love cars. I love driving. I love helping people, and I love bringing people along a journey and getting a smile and a laugh out of them. And I think if you can make that, it'll change the whole fabric. I mean, we've got to remember, the road toll is a serious topic, but I think if we have a different approach to what we've traditionally done with it, I think now is the time more than ever for us to have a seriously funny look.
So how do you? It's similar with Ross. How do you get the people that listen to you to actually listen to you and act on what you're advising them? Like, how do you motivate them to listen to you?
Well, I think it's probably, again, from the times I've heard Ross talk, it's the same thing. It's explaining a why. Like, why do I want you to do this? It's not just my theory. I've got some science to back it up. But by the same token, I give people then that sense of, oh, yeah, that's a pretty simple thing to do. Like with health, the things that you can do are pretty simple. It's just that people tend not to do them very well. So it's the same sort of approach, really. And I think once you get the number of people I've had after a presentation just gone, I've learnt more. A, I stayed engaged the whole time, but B, I've learnt more in 10 minutes than I have in 40 years of driving.
I'll just quickly explain to the audience what I actually do. I'm known universally as the Corporate Impostor. I create characters for major events under the guise of an overseas industry expert. I try and draw in the conference theme, key issues, and present it in a very entertaining and informative, insightful way. So this character really hits their hearts and their minds, and hopefully in a very significant way gets them to change their behaviour for the better. It utilises positive psychology and everything else, and I think it's a real winner. Now we get on to you, Ross. Ross is probably one of the most seriously funny cardiologists in the world. You wouldn't have met any other.
The known universe. There's a guy in Alpha Centauri that thinks he's funnier than me, but I'm light years ahead.
Okay. So Ross, your keynote, give it to us in 5 minutes.
The theme of my preventative cardiology career or preventative health career over the past 30 years is very straightforward. It's the 5 keys of being healthy, from the least important to the most important. So you cannot be healthy and have any addictions to anything. So you can't be healthy and smoke, drink too much grog, snort cocaine. Number 2, good quality sleep. 7 to 8 hours of good quality sleep per night is as good for your body as not smoking. Number 3 is nutrition, and nutrition's really easy to talk about, but a bit harder to do. It's called eat less food, eat more natural food. That's all you really need to know. Just as one example, 5% of the population have 2 or 3 pieces of fruit per day, 3 to 5 servings of vegetables per day, and they have the lowest rates of heart disease and cancer in the community just by doing that. And it doesn't do zip to your cholesterol. Number 4 is the second best drug on the planet, something you're addicted to, Homer. 3 to 5 hours every week of moderate exertion. You probably do more than that, but more is not better. 3 to 5 hours is the sweet spot. And number 5 is easily the best drug on the planet, which is a thing called happiness. And part of that, I think, humour is part of being happy. And my favourite comedian on the planet, Ricky Gervais, no, sorry, Homer, not you. Ricky Gervais once said, "You find it offensive, I find it funny. That's why I'm happier than you."
Yes.
And I think that really summarised it in a serious way, very funnily. But that's the whole point. People who find humour offensive, get over yourself. It's called fun. And I'm sick and tired of this woke, politically correct nonsense that people carry on with. You can't say that, it might offend someone. Oh, get over it, for God's sake. It's just ridiculous. So basically, if you practice those 5 keys, and I practice what I call the 80-10-10 rule, 80% of anyone's management is how those 5 lifestyle keys, they reduce your risk for all diseases 70 to 80%. Pharmaceutical pills, medical interventions about 10%, and with the potential for complications. And the other 10% is the use of evidence-based supplements. So basically that's a very quick overview of what I talk about and how people can really make sure they engage in better health. And I've got two groups of patients in my practice. I've got people who follow my advice and people who don't follow my advice. And the ones who follow my advice just become long-term mates of mine. Nothing ever happens to them. The ones who can't follow my advice or won't whittle away bits of their heart to their premature death.
Yep.
So it's just a decision. And the point is, what motivates people to actually follow the advice they're given, or what motivates them not to? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things about motivation. My daughter, who's a brilliant professional speaker, she talks about the 4 different quadrants of motivation. So some people are motivated by power and money. Some people are motivated by altruism. Some people are motivated by love and connection. Some people are motivated by hedonism.
Yes.
So when you talk about motivation, you've got to appeal to what quadrant that person's in. There's no point saying to the CEO that all he cares about is getting back to work and being in charge again, that, oh, look, if you stay well, you'll be able to look after your grandchildren. He doesn't want to know that.
Ross, it's just amazing to me how the parallels between what you talk about in the health field and really what I try and do with people on the road. You know, I often talk about, again, same thing, it's 5 keys, it's 5 really simple things that you can do. And if you adopt those 5 things, you're going to keep yourself out of 90% of the trouble. And that's simple things like looking far ahead down the road, not being distracted, driving to see conditions. And they're just basic things that people, again, if you just adopted those things, you'd keep out of most of the trouble that the average person gets to. So even driving here today, the amount of argy-bargy, the sort of the lack of consideration for other people, quite frankly, was another thing. And again, they're all 1%ers. But if you can just change that, and not only does it keep you safer, but your whole outlook to life, it changes from just being a little bit more chilled behind the wheel. So it is simple stuff. And there's so many parallels between, and I think that's the great thing about this presentation. It combines Ross's experience, my experience, your experience, but it brings it together in a really, really unique way. And I think if we're getting people healthier, there is a connection between road trauma and the health system as well, because doctors and surgeons I talk to talk about the fact that the people that end up being injured on the road, they end up in those same hospital wards that people need for the heart bypass or, the kidney, whatever. So there is a crossover between health and driving. And I think one of the great things, again, about this presentation is that for anybody that's got staff, people on the road, in fact, I'd challenge you to think, for those people listening, think about how many people are driving for work purposes. And that means whether they're just picking up the mail once a week or whether they're a rep, whether they're a truck driver, they're spending a lot of time behind the wheel. And the ergonomics, there is a lot of ergonomics that apply. We know about it for desks and tables and all that sort of stuff. But there's ergonomics for a car or a truck. And if you're continually doing the wrong thing biomechanically, you're going to end up with, at the very least, a shoulder problem, or maybe it's a neck problem or a back problem. Mightn't necessarily be a crash that is a result, but you'll end up with some sort of musculoskeletal issue.
This is at least something quasi-proactive that will get people participating in looking after their, whatever exercise, but also in looking after their own health.
It's about empowering people to look after themselves. Yeah. Because you won't change the attitude of other people on the road. The only thing you can manage is what's going on in your head and what you're doing yourself on the road. So I think that's the broader picture of what we're trying to say here. It's about empowering people to have the right information to help them make better choices and master the inner game, certainly when it comes to being on the road, as well as the physical game. Yeah.